Now, just an hour and 20-minute boat ride from Manila, Corregidor is now attracting travelers who have an appetite for history. More about Corregidor on this week's Travels.
Balitang America travels with Mango Tours. Presyong sagad, tiket agad.
Tourists are rediscovering why Corregidor served as a focal point for naval defense during the Second World War, and why the Americans invested millions of dollars in the last century to develop it. Aboard a bus designed to look like the old Corregidor Tranvia, visitors are taken around the island through a guided tour. For this journey, it was tour guide Armando who led us back in time.
End off every now and then. Most of the time you are allowed to leave your things on board the bus.
Our first stop, the ruins of a hospital built by the Americans. War-torn and unrecognizable, this is what remains of the infrastructure. Then we were off to see the old batteries used by American and Filipino soldiers, where the cannons remain silent witnesses to the horrors of the war, weathered by time and riddled with bullet marks from the war. Our tour guide also took us to the mile-long barracks, said to be the longest military barracks in the world during its time. Destroyed and burned down, they appear to be the ruins of a structure from the ancient times. We were also treated to sights of the old movie house where Gone with the Wind was one of the last films shown, and a museum that holds relics from the past, showing visitors the long-standing history between Uncle Sam and Juan de la Cruz. This memorial was built by the Americans for the soldiers who fought in the war. At the end of the memorial was a stunning view of the sea and the island. Then there's also the memorial built by the Filipinos for the Filipino, honoring the warriors who have fallen in the country's history of war and the heroes who have fought for the country. There's even a museum hidden under this memorial. But the highlight of the Corregidor tour takes place underneath the Malinta Tunnel. This was the last stronghold of more than 8,000 US and Filipino soldiers and nurses. For 5 excruciating months during the war, they called this their home.
October 1944.
Now visitors can relive those moments during the war through a lights and sound show presentation by national artist Lamberto Avellana. Life-size dioramas of the events were recreated as you walk along the tunnel. The most dramatic part, however, is when the show recreates the sounds of the bombing, making you feel part of history. For visitor Ludovico Gutierrez, the tunnel was an emotional highlight. He says his father was one of the Filipino soldiers who were trapped here. All his life, he wanted to visit Corregidor, but only had the chance now. American Stephen Kwasinski visited Corregidor in 2002 in search of his father's past. He says his father was a soldier and a prisoner in Corregidor. Last year, he came back here with his wife and is now living in the island. Stephen says it's a shame that many Filipinos have never been to Corregidor. He hopes one day they take the time to revisit the past. The past is not at rest, and one can clearly see that here in Corregidor Island when one takes a look back at one of our country's most trying times. Many may have forgotten, but it can easily be rediscovered, one ruin at a time. I'm Jeff Canoy. Until next time, enjoy your travels.